she would kill me. And the family would look at me and laugh at me, and people would just say, God, look at Mark, and look at all what happened to him. He's a little funny, and he's slow and stupid. And so I said nothing, but all the time I'm mad. I'm getting this defense inside. My self-esteem was going down. But still in the back of my mind, I can hear this voice saying, you're going to be somebody. You're going to do something. You can make it. Keep your chin up. And I remember the teacher got convicted. A good friend of mine named Gary, they went into the home and found him in the shower with this young boy. And I talked to Gary. Gary ran to me and said, Mark, please tell him you can't let him know what happened. They got me, but you can't say anything because you can't say nothing. I said, Gary, I promise I won't say nothing. So we didn't. And I carried that burden with me. And life got rough, and Mama kept on beating me, and my dad was drinking and everything, and both my mom and dad were drinking. See, alcoholism in the family was rough, because see, where I come from, when my mom and dad would drink, my mom and dad would have what's called spade night. And that's when we had this old, brown, dingy, it was called card table. It had a little rip down the middle, you know what I mean? And Mama and Daddy would call over the friends, and be 6 to 10 of them around, and they would start playing spades, and they started about 7 o'clock at night. And you could tell by how hard people were throwing the spades down, how much juice was running through the veins. And when people started cussing and Mama started getting belligerent, I knew that I had two choices. It was either I was on her good side or I was on her bad side. And you never wanted to be on Mama's bad side, because to be on Mama's bad side meant that you was going to get it. To be on Mama's bad side meant there was a beating coming. To be on Mama's bad side, it meant that you was usually going to get busted in the mouth. Something was going to happen. And some days I'd be on Mama's good side, and some days I'd be on Mama's bad side. And Mama would beat up my dad, beat me up, and my dad would never hit my mom, and Mama would just beat Dad up. And I'm like, man, did Mama come and beat me up, you know? And my dad never came to my rescue. And I said to myself, man, this is all there is. Mama's going to kill me. And one day my daddy leaves, and Mama's mad. And Mama goes back to the back room, and she brings out the family gun. And Mama puts the gun to the back of my head, and she says, boy, I'll blow your brains out, because you're not worth the air you breathe anyway. Now say something. And I'm sitting there scared to death, wondering, is this the way I'm going to end my life? And Mama, is she really going to do this? Well, Mama put the gun away, and there was many other times Mama would do things and chase us out and shoot guns in the house, and it was just a rough life. When I went on to about the age of 14, and well, at 14 years old, I come home one day from school, and Mama's sick. Mama continues getting more sick, and then eventually Mama goes to the hospital, and Mama's diagnosed with massive brain cancer. 3 months later to the date, Mama's dead. And I'm 14 years old, having a mother who's now died, wondering where my real mama is, and now I'm stuck with a father who's in his mid-60s, who I've never built a relationship with. I'm thinking that maybe me and my dad can get close, because Mama's gone. But see, my father had been married previously, and my dad's first wife died of massive brain cancer in the same way my mom did. So my father becomes an alcoholic, and I become a juvenile delinquent. And I dropped out of school at 15 years old, and I started selling drugs. And I was on the street, as the kids call it, I'm on the block. And I'm involved in drugs, I'm doing drugs, I'm selling drugs, and then here comes gangs, here comes Crips and Bloods. And Crips and Bloods come, and all of a sudden, you wearing red, you wearing blue, what is it? Or then there was little gangs in between. So I really don't want to be a Crip, really don't want to be a Blood, so I just want to be a part of something, so I just joined the gang anyway. And I got involved in this gang for protection, because see, if you didn't become a part of something in my neighborhood, if you didn't have some people to protect you, it was hard to make it. So I joined the gang. We started stealing stuff. We started stealing cars, and breaking into people's homes. We started breaking into churches. We was ruthless. You couldn't tell me nothing. And I hated the world. I hated myself. I hated my dad. I hated my mama. And everybody who told me I couldn't be anything. But still in the back of my mind, there's this voice saying, you're going to be somebody. You're going to do something. You can make it. It's the voice of my third grade teacher. Because see, sometimes in life you have to sow the seed in the children. And it's about sowing that seed, that the seed may not germinate until 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, but you got to sow the seed. And when I was on the streets, I kept a job to support my habit, but I had rival gangs that were after me every day. They said, when we find you, we're going to kill you. We're going to get you. And it was just a matter of time. And then I got caught and sent to jail. I started stealing my dad's car, and I got caught one night, and the police come out, and they send me to court about 3 days later. And there I am in front of the judge with a bad attitude. The judge said, why aren't you doing the right thing? I said, man, I got things to do. How long is this going to take? And the judge kind of looks at me, he kind of looked like Judge Mathis, you know what I mean? Kind of looked at me and he said, boy, he said, you know who you're talking to? I said, man, look, I don't have time for that. I got things to do, bro. I mean, what? I got to go. I got things to do. I had a rough attitude. You know, you couldn't tell me nothing. That was hard, you know. I was in the gang. I was protected. I had a little 38. I thought I was all good to go. You know, I made a little money, you know, doing drugs, selling drugs. I thought I had it all going on. And then the judge tells me, he says, son, he says, I'm gonna give you about 90 days to think about it. So I'm thinking, I can go home and think about it for 90 days. I'm cool. I can think for 90 days. No, man. He been 90 days locked up. 303 West 2nd Street, juvenile detention. And man, let me tell you something. I'm 14 years old. Actually, that was 15. I'm sorry. And I thought I was hard. I thought I was rough. But my mama, one of the things my mama did is she always raised us in the church. Mama started sending me to church at 7. And that's when the days when the church bus would come by and pick you up on Sundays, there was no excuse. So when he told me I was going to jail, I went to a Baptist church. So right then I got the Holy Ghost. I was like, sweet Jesus. I was out. So I fainted right. I was done. I'm looking for some ushers with some fans. I done fainted right there. And man, they come and grab me and they're taking me off to jail. Because, like, see, in those days, when you go to jail, you're thinking, what's going to happen to me while I'm in jail? I mean, you know, my name's going to go from Mark to Marquita. You know what I mean? Someone's going to take my cornbread. I got to meet Big Bubba. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to share a bunk, you know. So they're dragging me off, and I'm screaming and kicking and screaming and crying. And they locked me up. I remember they put me in this bright orange pumpkin suit, gave me some plastic shoes, a gray pillow, and a gray blanket, and that was it. And they put me in the cell, they closed the door, locked it, and that was it. And for the first time in a long time, I thought that all that roughness, all that, man, what's up, man, all that just withered away. I was a little scared kid who had no conception of what he was even capable of doing, and I cried for the first time in a long time. And I sat there in that cell, and I knew that I'd be dead by the time I was 18. I knew I was going to die young. And I got out of jail after doing my time, and I never had a chance to meet Big Bubba. My name is still Mark, so thank God, you know. So I get out, and 3 months later, I'm back in jail again. And I knew that if I went back again, they was going to send me to a bigger place, and I knew that I was destined for prison. And at that particular time on the streets, ladies and gentlemen, I had a lot of my friends who got killed by drive-bys. I had a lot of my friends who were murdered, execution style. And then I had friends of mine who were 14, 15, and 16 who were getting 25 years to life for selling drugs. And some kids, young as you. But they said, you do the time, you do the crime, you're going to do the time. And they meant it. They was locking kids up by the dozens, giving them a hard time. And I knew at that particular time I had to do something. And I was on the streets, and then I got involved in some community theater. There was a center about like this. It was called Westwood Recreation Center. Westwood Recreation Center wasn't nothing like this. I mean, it was Westwood. It was in the hood, and I mean, it was rough. But we have people like you in that center who we would come in and they call me Gary. Gary, what you doing today? What you doing? I'm just chilling, you know. You want a job? Hey, why don't you go get these basketballs up, give me a couple dollars with John Day. See, John Day was the mentor of the community. See, sometimes in order to build a kid's life, you have to get involved in their life. You have to get down where they're coming from. You got to learn the language. You got to talk to these kids. You got to know where they're coming from. And John Day would get down on my level and say, Gary, what's going on? I told him this day is rough, and my dad, you know, he's drinking, I've got these drugs, I've got these gangs. And they mentored me, giving me a positive reinforcement of who I was. Because see, if you look right there, it says 100 years from now, what I'm out of, what kind of car I drove, what kind of house I lived in, how much money I had in my bank account, nor what my clothes looked like, but the war may be a little better because I was important in the life of a child. See, the children are the greatest resource we have in this country. It has nothing to do with stocks and bonds. It's all involved in the children. And John Day took me under his wing, and my probation officer took me under his wing, and then I got involved in inner city theater. I started doing some acting and some drama, and got a chance to work with Malcolm Jamal Warner from The Cosby Show. Got a chance to meet Esther Rhodes, the mother from Good Times, and got a chance to do some work with Holly Robinson from 21 Jump Street. And for the first time, I knew that maybe it was possible that I could make it out the hood. And one lady told me, said, boy, you may live in the hood, but the hood doesn't have to live in you. And in the back of my mind, there's this voice saying, you can be somebody, you can do something, you can do it. And though all that was good, still at this point, I'm 17, going on 18, and I was just tired of life. And I decided that I was going to give up on life. I said, you know what, the only way for me to survive this pain is to kill myself. So I decided that I was going to commit suicide. So I remember the night I grabbed the gun, and I was looking at this pearl-handled, shiny, stub-nosed .38, and I couldn't figure out which way to do it. I couldn't. Is it here? Is it in the mouth? Is it like this? Is it in the ear? And I'm contemplating. I'm all drugged up, and every time I would put the gun to my head, there's this voice saying, you're going to make it. You can be somebody. You can do it. You're significant. It was my third grade teacher. And I remember I went back and forth battling with this gun. Back and forth. The gun is talking to me, telling me that I'm stupid, I'm worthless. You know all those things people told you, Mark, you need to end this, man. You're nothing. And for about 35 minutes, I'm back and forth dealing with this gun, and then the telephone rings, and it was a good friend of mine named Reggie. And Reggie and I, we were growing up in the hood together. Reggie's dad wasn't around, but then Reggie, I'm talking to him, and I said, Reggie, I don't think I can make it. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if it's possible that I can do anything with my life. I'm nothing. I'm scared. I just want to document. And Reggie said, man, he said, homie, you know, he said, hold on, man, I'm coming over. I'll be there in a minute. Please don't do nothing. I'm coming. Reggie came to my house, and I let him in, and Reggie put his arms around me, and he held me, and he hugged me. It was the first time in a long time I'd ever felt the love of someone, but Reggie said, man, it's going to be okay. He says, here's what I want you to know. He says, if you kill yourself, everyone who's told you that you're nothing, they win and you lose. And you know where we come from, losing is not an option. So what you going to do? And Reggie gave me this principle called TTR. TTR stands for take total responsibility. And at that moment, I had to take total responsibility for my life. And I decided that somehow I had to keep on breathing. Somehow I had to keep on living, because I knew that if I killed myself, I would be another statistic. And they would write about me in the paper, and some friends would, you know, they'd come to my funeral, and they had a little bottle of Wild Hours Rose, and they could pour me a little something out, you know what I mean? I wasn't going to be able to taste it, you know? I was going to be dead, man. And I said to myself, I said, you know what?